Good evening, and welcome to another Mothman podcast. We are your number one source for sci-fi and paranormal podcasts. Also be listening for podcasts from Moth and Flame. You'll be hearing about hypnotherapy and mediumship.
And also, please like and subscribe and comment on YouTube. Follow us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Instagram, Twitter, and more. And you can find out a lot more about our services on mothmanpodcast.com.
Good evening, everyone. Hi, I'm Darrell, and in the studio with me is...
Hi, I'm Amanda.
And we also have a special guest tonight, and our special guest is Suzanne Peaks. And Suzanne's here, and we're going to talk to her about some of her experiences through her lifetime. She's always been the one that really wants to see the ghost, but never ever saw the ghost. But I think she's had a lot of paranormal activity within her life that that most people would see and just kind of look the other way. But she grew up with me. She's my daughter. And so she knows to look for certain things. And I think that that's one of the things that everybody needs to learn how to do is actually look and see what's going on around them. But welcome, Suzanne.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Tonight we're going to start off by, Suzanne, you started off with, I know one of the paranormal experiences you had was in Clemens, North Carolina, when you were watching a TV program and some things happened in your house with a picture that fell off the wall.
Yep.
Can you explain that to our listeners?
Yeah, that was a lot of years ago, but there was one particular house it was in Louisville, and there was just weird things that started happening, and they would happen back to back to back, and I started kind of getting freaked out by why there were so many weird things happening. And one of them was you were involved in an accident where you got hit by a drunk driver.
Right.
So that kind of started it. And then that happened, I believe, on a Friday night. And then Saturday, the next night, or next day, my son had a football game up at the Broncos field. And he got hurt on the football field. He was okay, but it was a scary situation. And then not long after that, our house got struck by lightning.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and it didn't really hurt anything. It seems like it hit the fence and something went into the house. It blew some wiring. No major damage, but just back-to-back weird stuff. Mm-hmm. And I started talking to one of my friends at work at the time, and her family is very religious. I think her husband's a youth pastor. And she said, what's going on? And I did tell her I was reading a book, and it was about a possession.
Oh, wow.
And she instantly said, you've got to get rid of that book. So I got rid of the book. And I said, okay, well, I'll get rid of it if you think that that's what's causing all this kind of creepy stuff and all this bad luck. So honestly, I gave it to my mom. So I got rid of it.
You should see the look on Darrell's face.
I got it out of the house at least. And everything kind of quietened down. And I said, okay, well, if this makes everything stop, I'm not going to read any more books. I'm not going to watch any more ghost shows. Nothing. I'm just going to quit. And I did. I quit for a long time. And one night I was sitting in the den, and I had two cats, and they were sitting next to me on the couch. And my husband went to the back of the house to take a shower, and I'm like, ooh, I have old haunting episodes or haunted. I don't remember which one. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, well, I'll just watch one. So I started it. And there was they have this kind of standard introduction to that show.
Yeah.
And you got to understand, all this happened so fast, but I just, hit play, and it started. And all of a sudden, my cat sitting next to me jumps off the couch. At the same time, the picture, this old it was a mirror actually, came sliding down behind me and fell over onto the couch, the back of the couch. I mean, my hair.
Like the cat kind of knew this is happening
He
before.
heard something, yes.
Yeah.
And he got down, and then it kind of slid down, fell over, and I could feel my hair raise up. It came down right next to my head.
Yeah.
So that I'd had that mirror for years. It turns out that the back came off, like the fixture, the pieces came off of it. I don't know if it dry rotted.
How does that just happen? Yeah.
Random.
It's very strange.
Exactly. So that's kind of the story of that house.
Wow.
And then after that, you moved into another house over in Louisville, but nothing really strange happened to that one, right? That was over there near the lake.
I look back at things. I don't remember anything in particular that scared me. There was a lot of bad things that happened in that house. Like almost immediately when I moved in, our department shut down at the place that I was working. So I ended up going to a different job, and that happened right after we moved into that house. And then Donnie, had neck surgery. I had a brain tumor removed.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but, nothing like creepy in the house, just another kind of series of bad luck.
right.
But that was, we moved out of that house. And
So that's when the paranormal really started to happen, because then you moved to California.
right.
And you moved into a house in California. Now, Suzanne's always asked me, Dad, do you feel anything strange or do you feel weird stuff around? Well, I do a lot of times, but I don't like to scare people, and I don't want to put a negative feeling towards anything. So to keep from, you've got to live there. And so when I walk into a lot of houses and I feel certain stuff, and I just keep my mouth shut.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where
you don't want to just go around telling people,
hey, you need to get the heck out of here.
Yeah.
But she used to have a living room, and they didn't spend a lot of time in that living room. But there was a set of steps that went upstairs for that living room. And she had I don't even know what you called it, honey. You stored your expensive purses right there at the...
it's an armoire. Yeah.
Armoire.
Okay.
Right there at it. Every time I got close to that armoire, it's like I get cold chills. The hair on the back of my neck would stand up. I don't know what it was about that. I don't know if it was just the area right at that place. But she kept saying, Dad, do you feel anything strange? And then she started telling me stories about that house. And I'm going, okay. I know things, but I don't want to scare them. They got to live here. So, but I never felt like there was anything mean. But I felt like there was a presence.
Yeah.
But it was nothing that I thought was going to be hurtful or harming, because if I thought it was going to be hurtful or harming, I would have brought it to her attention right away.
Right, yeah.
And then she started telling me some of these stories. One story was very interesting, and I'm going to let Suzanne tell you this story about some dog equipment that was there at that on the steps one night.
There's a lot of stories with that house. Do you want me to talk about all of them?
Yeah, let's talk a lot. All of them.
There's some good ones.
Yeah,
they really are.
And it's been a few years since I've heard them. So.
Yeah. Okay.
And when they moved out of that house, I was very, very happy that they moved out of that house.
Yeah.
And I was hoping that I believe you were renting at that house.
Oh,
right?
yeah, we rented that house, right.
And so they were looking to buy a house. So I never really thought that they would stay there for any length of time. I knew that they would be moving forward. So I didn't say a whole lot, but it was just something weird. And it was always at the base of those steps that I felt that. And it's like, but it went back into the living room, but it didn't really go up the steps. It was back in the living room. But apparently there was things that happened upstairs and downstairs and all over the place.
All over, yeah.
So,
real quick question. Do you still have that armoire?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I do.
Interesting.
Yep.
Has there anything ever happened around that armoire? Okay. So
maybe it was the house.
Yeah, I think it was there was, you and I, when we go out and do investigations, we usually find one room that's particularly hot, what I call hot.
Yeah.
That's where most of the paranormal activity take place.
Yeah.
I think whatever was happening in that house was right around that area where that living room and the staircase was located. So that was the hot spot in that house.
Yeah.
So that's what I thought. Go ahead, Suzanne, and tell us about that.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. There were so many things. I guess the first thing was we did rent. I think we were there for 3 years. And when we moved in, we had our Doberman.
And this was California? Mm-hmm. What part?
Laguna Niguel.
Okay, that's right. Yeah. Oh, beautiful area.
And it is, and the house was pretty, and the whole area was pretty. I've never seen anything, so none of this is anything I've ever seen. Nothing's ever touched me, anything like that. It's just weird things that happen.
Yeah.
And we had the Doberman, and he was one of the guy that we rented from, who I really, really liked. He was one of the only landlords that would let us have a Doberman in the house. So anyway, that's why we picked the house, and it was beautiful and big and everything. And the very first thing was we would leave, and Dobermans are kind of curious.
Yeah.
They get into everything. They're very smart. But we came home. I walked up that staircase that Dad's talking about, walked right into the master bedroom. And what are you looking behind you? What's back there?
Nothing.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
No, it was the cat.
Okay.
I saw Bob jump up on the bed out of the corner of my eye.
Oh, my God. Okay. Well, anyway.
Telling ghost stories.
We're around the fire now.
I walked up the stairs, and the stairs were beautiful because they were wide at the bottom, and they kind of tapered, and they went around. It's not quite circular, but, dramatic. Walked into the master bedroom. It had double doors.
Oh, wow.
And I walked right in, and right in the middle of the floor, there is a perfect circle of dog toys, my sunglasses, a coffee mug.
What the hell?
Exactly. And, the very first thing is, my God, I knew Deuce that was his name. I knew he liked to get in the coffee cups. So my first thought was, well, he's gotten all this stuff and he pulled the coffee mug down or whatever. But the fact that it was arranged in a perfect circle.
Dogs don't really know their shapes.
It was weird. So that was the first thing. And of course I call my husband up, and he thinks it's Deuce, and we go on and we're like, okay, that was Deuce, whatever.
Oh my God.
He's the one that I mention a lot that says everything happens off camera.
Right.
Yeah.
He's the one that, I think he really wants
skeptic.
to believe, but he's a little skeptic on believing things.
He's just like that anyway. He's just kind of grumpy. But anyway, so they were arranged. That was that. And then one time, Deuce had a dog walker named Eli, and we loved Eli, and he and Eli were best friends, and it was just a wonderful thing. Mm-hmm. And sometimes when Donnie and I were gone, Eli would come over. Yeah. He would text me and say, can I go get Deuce and take him to the beach or whatever?
Yeah.
He didn't charge us, but he loved Deuce, and he liked to show him off.
Nice.
It was. Anyway, he would text me, and I'd say, yeah. Well, anyway, we got home one day, and Deuce, of course, was in the house, and his leash, every time Eli would walk him and bring him back, he would roll that leash up.
Yeah.
So I don't do that.
No, I toss
throw him. Yeah. And the leash was rolled up in place right in the center of the stairs. I don't remember if it was the bottom stair or the one up, but anyway, it was just a perfect circle. So I'm like, oh, Eli must have come and gotten Deuce and just didn't tell me.
Yeah.
So I texted him and I said, did you come get him? He said, no.
Wow.
And that's not where that leash was.
Yeah.
When I left. It may have been rolled up, but it was not on the steps. It was somewhere else.
Yeah.
And the leash was
That is really odd.
Never figured that one out. Lots of stuff would go missing in that house. Do you remember the remote that went missing?
Yeah, that I got blamed for.
You still probably get blamed for that. Donnie swears that you threw that remote away. The remote never. It
never came back.
It went missing and never came back.
And I didn't throw it away.
No. Things like that would happen.
Tell us about the boxes in
that
the
was
garage.
the worst thing.
Yeah.
So it kind of progressively gets worse because, you start to think, well, who's coming in my house at some point?
Yeah.
And, of course, I had a teenager and he had friends, but it was just stuff that they wouldn't be interested in doing.
Right, like putting animals in a circle.
Yeah,
and
sunglasses and a coffee mug.
And
that
plus,
is very strange.
I know we never discussed anything about paranormal with the younger generation.
No.
It was just, that was the conversation that took place.
Exactly.
So one morning, we were taking Trey to school, and the car was in the garage. And I always had boxes stacked up in the garage, and they were the plastic storage containers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they would, I mean, I don't know how many of them there were stacked up. Let's say 5. And when I walked into the garage, well, first of all, Trey had already gotten in the car and was sitting there. And I walked
Trey's
out.
our grandson.
Yeah, that's my son. And he was already in the car, and I see all these boxes toppled over. And I opened the door. I'm like, did you do this? He's like, no, it was like that. I said, okay, let me text Donnie and see if he did it. Mm-hmm. It's not that unusual for boxes to topple over. That's not the weird part.
Yeah.
I texted Donnie. I'm like, did you knock the boxes over? He said, no. But when I got into the car, I said, I was talking to Trey about it. He's like, no, but I did hear a loud noise. His bedroom was above that garage. It was in a bonus room.
Okay, yeah.
So he heard something going on in the garage that night. It was late, 11:30. Uh-huh. Now, the weird part about it is the box on the base box or base storage container had all the boxes on top of it. All these boxes are, whatever. They fell over. They landed where they landed.
Yeah.
But the bottom box that was the base was flipped over on its top.
What?
Now, that was the weird part to me. There was nothing in it. I mean, it was stuff that we used at the football field.
But somebody has to do that.
Somebody had to physically pick that box over, pick it up, and turn it over.
Right.
I think it was the base. It was the bottom.
Yeah, that defies the physical laws of reality.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, okay, so that it gets even weirder, and I'm like, oh my God, what's going on in this house, and who's coming in here? Like, who would come in and just do that?
Yeah, and just knock over boxes and leave.
Right.
And there was nothing missing.
No, there was nobody stole it. There was nothing like that. It was just weird.
Right.
So I'm sure there were other things that went on, but the grand finale to that is we were moving and we bought a house somewhere else, and it was hot that day, and it was right before the movers came that same week or whatever, and I was trying to get things moved over to the other house as much as I could in my car.
Yeah.
And I just remember being so hot, and I was trying to be so careful in the house because we rented it and I didn't want to have to pay any money for destroying anything.
Right.
And I had gone out to the garage again, and I was putting boxes in the back of my car to move. Uh-huh. And I got a box in, and I walked to the kitchen, and that house had travertine floors. Uh-huh. And it was porous, though. The floor was kind of porous. And I went into the kitchen and did something and walked back out. And I saw this trail of something I had stepped in, apparently. Uh-huh. And I'm looking at the bottom of my shoe. I'll never forget I had on Roxy flip-flops because I had made little heart stains on the floor with whatever I stepped in. And I picked up the shoe, and there was stain on the bottom or whatever. And I walked back out of the garage, and again, I'm mad at this point because I'm hot, I'm sweaty, I've ruined this floor. How am I going to get this stuff off the floor? What is it?
Right.
And I'm picking up boxes and putting it in the back of my car. I'm like, something spilled, and I've got it in the back of my car now. Uh-huh. So I'm kind of frantic, and I'm out there, and I'm looking around, and I'm checking through the boxes in my trunk, and there's nothing in those boxes. And I start looking through the other boxes because what it looked like was almost like a silvery metallic nail polish is what it looked like to me. And I started looking through all the boxes in the garage thinking, did a pen break? Is it nail polish? Is it I looked up, is it grease coming off the tracks for the garage door opener?
Yeah.
It came out of nowhere. There were drops of that stuff in the garage.
That is
from
so weird.
Nowhere.
Yeah.
My husband got home later. I'm like, look around and see if you can find the source of whatever those drops came from.
Yeah.
We never figured out any of this stuff.
And you didn't find it on the other end unpacking?
No, it didn't
so
exist.
Weird.
There were just drops. Like somebody had opened a bottle of nail polish.
Dumped
and just
it out.
It was just small drops. It was like random drops of this stuff that I had stepped in. And you'd think I would have seen it before I stepped in it, but I don't know. I got it all up, and I got the floors clean.
That is so strange.
But that was some of the weirdest stuff. And So there's two other things now that I'm thinking about it. Number one, I told you, and Dad knows this too. My Doberman, my beloved Doberman, got sick the minute we moved into that house.
Yeah.
And we spent thousands, and I mean thousands of dollars on this dog trying to figure out what was wrong with him. He was our baby. Same thing. Yeah. And we took him to specialists. We took him all over the place. They never could figure out what was wrong. He would throw up, and he was just sick the whole time. And he ended up dying in that house. Well, he didn't die in the house, but he got sick enough that we ended up taking him to someplace to have him sleep. But he was basically dying.
You lived there.
Dying in the house.
Yeah.
So
it's so sad.
It is sad. And I look back on it, because you're not thinking about that stuff while you're in the house.
Yeah.
But you look back on it and you're like, did something in that house kill my dog?
Yeah.
And make him sick the whole time he was there? And then one of the very last times I ever went over there, of course, Deuce had already died. And my mom brought me my Chihuahua that she was taking care of while we rented.
Yeah.
So she drove across country, brought me my Chihuahua, Harry, that I still have. And it was one of the last times I went back to that house to get something. And he jumped out of the car, but he did it so fast that he lost his balance and ended up toppling onto the cement.
Yeah.
And he was walking sideways.
Oh my God.
So I had to take him to the vet because I'm like, and she basically said Chihuahuas just overreact. And he was fine, thank God. But I'm like, here's another one that's getting hurt.
Yeah.
Right as I'm trying to leave this house, here's another dog getting hurt.
God. Yeah.
But again, I'm not thinking about any of that in the house. I'm not really living there scared. I'm not afraid something's going to come around the corner.
Yeah.
I'm just like, there's just weird stuff happening, and I cannot explain it.
Have you ever heard of the Sally house?
Oh, yes.
Where they had the stuffed animals in a circle over and over and over, and it was
Scratches.
Like, that was the main thing that happened was the stuffed animals. They would and they were blaming it on each other until the sister-in-law came over. And all three were together and walked down the stairs, and one person went up and saw it and didn't move, called the rest of the family, and they all saw it together. And then they were like, okay, it's none of us. But that reminded me of that, just something putting your belongings in a circle.
And that was the first thing that happened.
That is so strange.
But I go back through all of it, and none of it can be explained. Like, there was a can of dog food, and when we had to feed Deuce a special diet, and he had to eat canned dog food. Well, your first reaction is there's a can of dog food missing, and we're like, where's the can of dog food?
Yeah.
Well, we found that where he chewed the top off.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. But we never found the can.
What?
I mean, I would think the dog couldn't have eaten a tin.
And he couldn't
can.
have really, dogs aren't, well, they do hide some things, but usually it's a bone. It's not a
tin can.
A tin can.
I never found the can.
That is so strange.
I know.
And the thing is, these things that you lost, you moved out of the house. You cleaned the house out.
Correct. And moved
these
furniture.
Things never showed up.
Things could have fallen out of the furniture, stuff like that. Nothing ever.
No remote. No dog can.
No.
Well, I never did an investigation in that house, but it probably justifies what being done.
House. And it seems like things escalated from being in a circle to killing your dog.
I mean, that's just something I feel. I feel like something made him sick in that house.
Totally.
He was never sick before that.
Yeah. And Dobermans are generally healthy dogs.
He was 4 years old when he died.
Oh, my God. So, there's no reason for that.
No, there wasn't. It's awful.
Poor baby.
Well, I was just using this as an example of strange things we cannot explain. Mm-hmm. But it's also an example of people who think about paranormal, but they can't really. They're looking for the ghost. They're looking for
the full body apparition to walk through the room.
But that's not always the case.
Right.
It's a lot of times it's instances like
it's
we're talking
things.
about like this.
Yeah.
The little things that adds up to a paranormal experience. And I think she, without seeing something, she's been there and done that when it comes to paranormal.
I would say
activity.
And I've seen entities, but only recently as I've gotten stronger as a medium. But most of my life I can look back and, it's little things being moved or, just little stuff like you said, just little things.
Well, that's followed her now. She's moved from California to the Florida.
Yep.
And she's in the Tallahassee area.
Which I just
Florida.
learned how to spell.
Right. No interested. Not interested. But the house she moved in now, it's very funny because they were telling me some stories. But this past week for Thanksgiving, I was there at their house with her. And there's this section of her house, her bedroom and another bedroom and a bathroom. And then she has an office on that side of the house. When I go down, my wife, my current wife, and I stay on the other side of that area. I've never really felt anything. Just as I was coming down the hallway from her office, I had this strangest feeling I needed to go into this bathroom. Bathroom I've never been in before.
Yeah.
It's just like, I need to go into this bathroom. So I walk in that bathroom, and she stops me at the door, and she says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm just looking around."
I got a feeling.
Why are you in my closet?
Yeah, why are you in the bathroom? But there was just something drawing me into that bathroom.
Yeah.
And then she has a puppy now that won't go into that room.
Which one? Is it
BB? Yeah, she's
BB,
3.
it's-
She's
it's
not really
a small,
a puppy.
and she's
yeah. She tiptoes if she goes in.
Does she?
She looks around, she sniffs, she tiptoes. She doesn't go in there very often, and she makes it all the way in. There's a bathtub, and she always just kind of peers over the edge of the tub, like
is
what's
so
in
funny.
there. Yeah.
But I had a feeling there's something in that bathroom that drew me in there, and there's something going on in that bathroom. Okay, you're talking about the hot spot again.
Yeah.
So I asked her some questions. I said, "Do you know anything about the house? You know anything about the construction?" She said, "Yeah, it's always been that bathroom there." And I'm thinking, well, has it always been this? How many buildings has been here in this
Right.
site? Because I think there's something about that bathroom.
Uh-huh.
And then go ahead and tell us about the story that even my son-in-law, who's a skeptic.
Well, while you were there, I get a text. Was it Thanksgiving Day? Investigate this address.
Yeah.
I was like, you got it.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to learn more about this address.
Yeah.
So I sent it to you. But
Well, I found a lot. But Suzanne's experience.
yeah,
was
but I
her-
wanted her to talk about the incident where the son-in-law and the son, my grandson, heard something. And go ahead, explain the paranormal.
You may tell both the stories in the house. There's
Yes.
only 2. This one's not all that. I've only been there for 2 years, so not a whole lot's happened. But there's 2 weird things. So one day, and oddly enough, we had just come from a haunted house.
Experience. A haunted house experience type thing.
Yeah, where we went to have dinner and did a
Right.
ghost tour
Okay.
in Monticello. And
Did you bring something home with you?
I don't know.
I don't think you did.
Okay.
Okay, good.
All right, we'll talk about that.
It was already there.
Yeah. So I'm putting clothes away in the closet in my master bedroom, and it's a long, narrow, thin closet. And I'm at the very back of the closet. I finished putting stuff away, and I'm turn around to walk back out. And I didn't see this happen. I mean, I didn't see it start to happen. I saw the end result. But I turned around, and about the time I turn around and walk out, I'm always kind of looking at the floor anyway when I walk for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. And there's these 2 boxes just land in front of me. Mm-hmm. And they're 2 watch boxes, and there was watches on top of the boxes. I didn't actually have them in the boxes like I should have. They were on top. So both the boxes in the watches fell into the floor right in front of me as I was walking out. So, the hair goes up on the back of my neck when that one happens because there's a couple of reasons why. I didn't hit anything. I know I didn't hit anything. I don't keep things on the edge of the shelf, so it's not like it vibrated off or anything like that. These things were kind of pushed back away, and my shelves are those it's those wire shelves that have a kind of a tacky plastic coating on them. So they're non-skid.
Right.
They're not slick at all. Nothing vibrates off of them. I went over there and I shook the shelves. They're attached very well. Nothing. There was no explanation for that either. So that one's... I won't say scared me, but I got to the point with that one when my chills went away. I'm like, whatever's in here, please go away.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
And
did you feel a presence even for like a microsecond?
I wouldn't say that. It was more like, I get chills now. It's a chill that runs through you.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like
that's not supposed to happen.
Something's wrong. Yeah.
Somebody's drawing your attention.
Yeah, and that's what I felt like. Somebody was drawing my attention to something, and I picked up the boxes and I looked in them, and there was nothing in them. But what's so strange is I had called a psychic when I lived in California, Patty Negri. I mean, I think she's pretty.
I've heard of her. Yes. Yeah.
I did
I follow her on Twitter.
Yeah, I did a reading with her.
Wow.
And towards the end, and she gave me a bunch of information, but it's like I told you the other day, I want to talk to somebody because I want to know who's around me. That's more like what I want to know. I don't need to know my future. And she didn't really come up with a lot of people. I've had several men and a couple of women, but several men that have died that I've been not exceptionally close to, but close enough. Coworkers, a boss, stuff like that. And she came up with somebody, and she said, he's a funny guy, and he keeps messing with his teeth. And I always thought that was Larry that she was talking about because Larry had false teeth.
Right.
Which that's pretty common. You know, a lot of people have false teeth.
Yeah, but the reason I thought it was Larry is because of what happened in California. You were unable to attend his funeral.
Yes. That's a whole different story.
Yeah. And
who's Larry?
He was my brother who died of cancer.
Oh, that's right.
Right.
Okay.
And he was close to Suzanne. When I say close to Suzanne, Suzanne
close, right,
as you can get, being an uncle far away.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
He always talked about her and he was concerned about her and that sort of thing. And my brother wasn't concerned about anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the way he was. It's
right.
just his personality. I'm not talking about dead.
No, you're just saying
it's just the way he was.
He didn't ask about people a lot, but he asked about Suzanne.
And so the day that he, I think it was his day of the funeral.
It was the funeral.
Go ahead and tell them what happened. What you were sitting at your office and about the time of the funeral.
Well, let me finish. Patty was saying he's messing with his teeth and he wants you to look in the box. I still don't know what box. This was years ago. When did he die? What year?
2017.
Okay, so it wasn't recently, but I never have figured out what box I'm supposed to look in, and it might not have been him.
There is a trend here with boxes.
The box. So I don't know, but anyway, yeah. So the day he had his funeral, I was sending flowers, and I was trying to come up with a real special something that meant something on his card,
right? And
it was one of the phrases, one of the lyrics from a Led Zeppelin song is what I came up with.
He was very much into that.
Yeah, he liked the same kind of, we liked the same kind of music. And so anyway, I was thinking long and hard on what to put, and I think I was getting ready to write it, or I'd finished, and I was getting ready to pay for it. Mm-hmm. But there was a lot of stuff going on in my head, and all of a sudden the power went out in my office.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I walked outside, and I guess the breaker, the trip, had never happened before, never happened since.
Yeah.
It happened right then at that time, though.
That's definitely
yeah.
I hear you. I hear you, sweetheart.
Yeah, so that's what happened.
Oh, that's really sweet.
It is. It is sweet.
Yeah.
But this is one of those things I just thought, okay, maybe that's him.
Yeah.
Giving me his final goodbye.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's it with Patty's story. But the box, nothing happened for a while after that. You want me to tell the next story?
Yes.
Okay. So the only other thing is, this one's hard to tell. There's so many different parts to this one, but
you have to listen to the whole story.
Yeah, she kind of has to set it up.
I do.
Because you explained it to me last night. So set it up.
Okay. All right, I'll set it up. And you have to understand.
If you don't know where people are, you don't understand what's happening.
Yeah, and it's, so my house now it's a house that was remodeled. I think it was originally built in the 70s. And it is a super long ranch house. And first of all, I had 3 dogs in the house at the time. Now I have 5, but there were 3 then. My Chihuahua came back that was visiting with my mom, and her dog's there now. But anyway, my 3 that were there I have a Siberian Husky and 2 Labradoodles. And the smallest Labradoodle is BB, and she is this crazy little dog. And when she sees something like people or whatever, if anything excites her, she barks and kind of screams at the same time.
Yeah, it's that poodle in them because I've got a half poodle dog, and the scream.
They scream.
Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly.
And we have a full poodle. It's crazy in there.
And that comes out in her. And I've got a bigger Labradoodle that doesn't sound like that. She actually sounds like a male with a real deep bark. But anyway, BB's totally different. And then she has this other bark. And she doesn't do it very often, thank goodness, because when she does it, it bothers me. It kind of scares me because she acts like she is seeing something that she doesn't understand what it is. And the best way to explain it is it's one bark with a pause, and then she'll walk and one bark with a pause. And, and she did it one night, she did it this night, but one other night she'd done that, and I was home alone, and she scared me. She was walking from hall to hall and room to room doing that weird bark, and I'm like, I was fussing at her. I'm like, stop. You've got to stop doing that. So anyway, this night, it was late, and I had gone to bed like I always do. It was Saturday night maybe, and my son was staying with us. He was in between apartments, and my husband fell asleep in the recliner, so it was late. Donnie, instead of coming to bed, because all the dogs were nestled in the bed with me, he goes and sleeps in the bedroom where Dad, you and Sandra stay.
Right.
That's the guest bedroom. It's got a bathroom in it. So Donnie went in there to go to bed, and Trey had been in another bedroom playing video games, and he's real loud when he plays video games and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was in bed, and BB started doing that weird bark. It woke me up. And normally I would scream at her or whatever. Nothing would bother me, but she was doing that weird bark. So eventually I just got up. I was like, I want to go see what's concerning her.
Yeah.
So I go in there and I flip on the light. And my son, even though he plays video games in that one bedroom, he sleeps on the couch every time he's there. The couch in the den that's literally right in the middle of the ranch house.
Yeah. And
I flip on the light and he's not in there. And he's not in that bedroom playing video games. And I said, and by this time I have to explain, BB's no longer out walking through the house barking. I don't know where she is right at that moment. She's not out there. I flip on the light and
your son's not there.
He's not there. And I said, Trey, kind of like, Trey, where are you? But I just said, Trey. And about that time, there's a door down at the other end of this very long ranch that goes out into the carport. And it squeaks, and I keep it squeaky so I can hear if anybody's walking in the house.
Yeah.
So it's got a very distinct squeaky sound, and I hear it squeak, and then I hear the door shut. So my first thought is, there's no Trey. Where's Trey?
Yeah.
Why is he going outside? And I knew it was late, and I'm like, this is just so weird. There's no reason for him to have to go outside. He vapes. He vapes in the house. We don't make him go outside. He screams in the house with playing video games. We don't make him, there's no reason for him to go outside. I'm like, what did he need outside this late?
Yeah.
So I go into that hall bathroom that Dad was talking about, and I'm sitting in there, and I'm just not worried, but concerned.
Trying to figure out what's going on.
I'm confused.
Yeah.
What's going on? Where is he? Why was BB weird barking?
Yeah.
Trey's nowhere to be found. I'm like, okay. So I'm thinking about that, and then I go get back in bed. Now, keep in mind, the husky and the other Labradoodle were still in the bedroom. So I get back in bed, and I made sure the TV was on, and I changed the channel and took note of the time. It was 1:25, because I thought if something had happened to Trey or something weird's going on, I want to be able to tell somebody what time it is.
Right.
So...
she watches a lot of those.
Yeah, I do.
A lot of forensic files.
Forensic files. And
I do too.
Criminal investigations.
Yep. Crime Watch Daily.
Right.
So it was 1:25, and I'm flipping through the channels, and I don't know how much time passed. It wasn't much, but it was enough. I'm laying there still thinking, where did he go? Why did he leave? Is he going to a party this late? What's going on? And about that time, I'm flipping through the channels, and the other dogs get up and run into the den. I can't remember if they were barking, but they heard something. They got off the bed and went into the den. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to get up and go figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
So I walk in again and flip on the light again, and Trey's walking back from that other end of the house, like I mentioned, and he's got his iPad in his hand. I said, "Where did you go?"
Yeah.
He's like, "I've been in the bathroom." And I said, "Did you go outside?" He said, "No." And about that time, my husband, who'd been in that side room I mentioned, he was awake enough to know what was going on. He's like, "Honey, did you let the dogs out?" And I said, "No." He's like, "Well, I heard the door shut." I said, "Yeah, I heard the door shut too."
Yeah.
And so now we're all freaked out. He's up. BB was with him, come to find out, but I didn't know that. But she was with him. And I said, "So you had BB?" He's like, "Yes, she was barking." And she came in here and she was wagging her tail and she wanted me to pick her up, put her on the bed. And there was nothing wrong with her.
Right.
So he's like, "Well, you sure you didn't let the dogs out?" I said, "No, I didn't let the dogs out."
Yeah.
"Well, then who shut the door?" "I don't know who shut the door." So we're all freaking out and panicked at this point. So I have to keep expanding on the story because, your first reaction is somebody just came in my house.
Right.
So he and Trey, Donnie and Trey, go outside and start looking for footprints and stuff like that. There was nothing. But to understand my house, we live off the main road, at probably a quarter of a mile. It's a very long drive. And our property has got it's not a great fence, but it's a fence. It's like a farm fence all around it. And there's a double gate, or it's just a gate. It is a double gate to my driveway. So that was shut. Well, on the gate, there's...
And that's electric gate, so you can't just
open it. Yeah.
You got to have a code to get in it.
Yeah.
Right. And
so it's a really secure property.
I mean, if they wanted to jump the fence, they could jump the fence.
Right.
But you got to put some effort into that.
And like I was saying last night when you were telling me this story, if somebody put in that much effort to get like a quarter mile into the country, into your house, they're not going to just walk right back out the door silently.
Oh, somebody's up. I'm just going to shut the store and
they're
leave.
coming for like a home invasion.
Yeah, exactly. That's my thought too.
Yeah.
So... And there's lights on top of the gate. There's a light, like a lantern, out in front of my house. The light in my office stays on 24 hours. There are 4 or 5 cars in the driveway.
Yeah. It looks like you've got a full house.
There was a lot of activity in that house. There's anybody that's ever been back there knows there's dogs barking constantly.
Yeah.
So, your first thought is, well, somebody just came in my house. And so that's what sticks in my head. And almost instantly, my husband's like, "I think it was a ghost." I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, that's
He's
crazy.
like, "I think it was the little old lady that used to live in this house." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm like, that's
he's the
crazy."
skeptic.
Very much so.
And that was his first thought.
But I got to understand, she's got a husky.
Yeah.
And she's got 2 Labradoodles and a little Chihuahua that raises Cain if anybody comes around. Nobody was raising Cain, okay? Nobody was in attack mode. Nobody was, if they saw something, it wasn't bothering them.
Yeah.
So whatever opened that door and shut that door was not a threat to the animals.
Right. You would have heard them.
And that was the only thing. Like, we went out next day, I kid you not, and got a shotgun.
And BB was the only one who
BB was the
saw
only one
anything
weird barking.
Yeah.
If she'd seen a person, that's the
it
only
would have been
thing.
a person bark. Yeah.
Yeah, that is the only thing that leads me back to it was not a person, is because she would have lost her mind.
Right.
She
and
would
if
have
you know
screamed.
dogs have that. We've got 4 dogs next door, and it's the same thing. If it's a person coming in, you can't even talk. It's so loud.
That's
it's
right.
like, let me step outside.
I agree. Anybody comes in that house.
I mean, even when my mom comes home, they like anybody that walks through the door, family, anything.
Right.
That's just how dogs are.
They identify with that person and they say hello, or they're going after them
Exactly.
aggressively. And they were not being aggressive.
And they
towards
weren't
anything.
responding.
No. So whatever opened that door
Didn't bother the dogs
the
at
dogs,
all.
or they didn't.
They weren't concerned.
Right.
It was BB's weird bark, like something's here. I see something, I don't know what it is. It was that weird bark that she's got. And, and I'll never know what it was.
That's crazy.
And that's why we brought you into it.
Yeah, that's the reason I sent you the address and said, hey, do some research.
And I did. And I found out a lot. And it's hard to know where to even start. I'll continue with the paranormal first.
Okay.
So you sent me the address,
Right.
and I looked it up, and it's pretty common knowledge. If you look up any address, it usually, even if the house is sold, you can pull up realtor photos. So I actually had some really old photos before it was remodeled, and I was looking through those, and I was like, this one room bothered me. And so it was Thanksgiving Day, because later I had a fire in the fire pit out back, and I was sitting around the fire, and I was like, I wonder if I can just get in touch with that house. And so I tried to meditate a little bit, and I saw in that room that kept bothering me, this man, and he was a white man. I don't know exactly what kind of clothes, like it didn't seem period. It was just like a shirt and pants. So I couldn't really tell if it was a time period, but he was really sad. And I was trying to communicate with him like, hey, it's okay. You don't have to be so sad. Went up to him and shook him, and like nothing. I couldn't get him to respond. He just looked like he was about to cry. He looked confused and really sad. And I was like, I just couldn't get anything out of him. He was really handsome. He had kind of like a round face and like bright blue eyes, a little bit of blondish hair. He wasn't fully clean shaven. It was kind of scraggly, like maybe a couple days that he didn't shave or something. And then something caught my attention to my right, and I turned, and there was, I'm not sure if he was a black man or a Native American. I just know he was like darker skinned, and kind of shorter black hair. I'm thinking he was a black guy, except I was confused because he had some kind of weapon in his hand, and he was really angry. And I didn't want anything to do with him. I was just kind of like, okay, I'm leaving him alone. And he was facing away from me, and I didn't want to get his attention. And so that was kind of all I got. And I have a friend who, she seems to be somewhat psychic, and she gets impressions of things. And so she's sort of in training a little bit. And so I sent her the photos of the house, and I said, do you feel anything at all in any of these rooms of this house? If you don't, that's totally fine. Tell me that you don't. But if you do, I want to know. And she picked the same room, and she said, I don't know what it is about this room. It bothers me, and I feel something with the 1930s, but I don't know if that's accurate. I just know this room bothers me. And I'm like, okay. So I started digging into the history, and the history goes back so far. All of that land was originally Native American land, the Appalachian Indians who were in that area.
Appalachian or?
Appalachie, 2 E's on the end.
Is that correct?
It sounds right.
Okay.
Yeah, it sounds right.
They were in that area. They said they know archaeologically 3,000 years ago, probably even before that, but they can trace that tribe 3,000 years back. So they're still in the area, as far as like there's some streets named after them, that kind of thing, in Tallahassee. And then after that, this part I find really strange because it's so far south. There was part of the Revolutionary War fought in the Tallahassee area. And what happened was the British were advancing into Florida, and they got into Tallahassee, and the American guys did their usual like ambush guerrilla fighting, and because the Brits advanced in a row and that kind of thing, they totally killed, I don't know, they said a lot of them, so I don't know how many, but they were buried in that area. And I believe some of them have been buried at the historic churches in the area. There were 3 historic churches, so I think there are some Revolutionary Revolutionary War British people buried in that area. After,
that area is also where I did that everybody wanted me to go down and look at the graveyard. Nobody would get out of the car with me but me. And, but I did catch one entity there in front of a tombstone, but I believe it dated back to the 1700s.
Was it the Pisgah Church? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either.
No.
It's down Pisgah Road.
Okay. That's one of the oldest cemeteries in that area.
But I believe when I went back and looked at the gravestone the next day, it belonged to a female that died in the late 1700s, early 1800s.
Yeah, that is one of that area. There's 3 churches, and it's like a Baptist church, a Lutheran church, and I want to say Episcopal. I might be wrong on that. But those 3 churches were original to the area back to the early 1700s.
Right.
And there's people buried there from that time period.
This one I went to was it's well off the road there. It's back in the woods.
I would love to see it after researching all this. Oh, my God.
Oh, it's great. I'd love to have somebody go back here and go through the graveyard with me at nighttime.
Yeah. So after the Revolutionary War came the Civil War. I didn't find a whole lot about the Civil War. I don't think Florida was as involved.
No, I don't think so either.
So there wasn't really, they just mentioned, and then there was the Civil War era. And then after that, well, actually during that time, and back to I think it was the early 1800s, there were some plantations that started being settled in that area. And there were 3 plantations that relate to Suzanne's property. There was this guy, let me think of his name, Dr. Edward Bradford. And he was from somewhere up north, and he was a doctor and had a significant amount of money and came down and bought all this land in Tallahassee. And it actually went over into the next county over. I don't know what that county is. But he had 2 plantations that he owned. One was the Horseshoe Plantation, and one was Pine Hill. And then he gave his brother land to start his, and it was I can't remember, Water something plantation. Right.
They all tie right into the Georgia line. There's a lot of plantations that are still in existence across in the Georgia area, which Tallahassee is right there at the Georgia line.
And I think the Pine Hill one does cross into Georgia.
That would be Thomas County, I believe.
Okay.
Does that sound right?
I don't know. Okay. I can't remember. But the Horseshoe Plantation is where Suzanne's property is. And it was kind of in 3 sections from east going west. So on the east end of the plantation was the plantation house. And I'll show you pictures later.
Okay.
And the house was in a horseshoe shape. And it burned down, unfortunately, in 1938, 39. There's a new house built on that, and it's still in use. Then the next section over was where the slaves, they had kind of like little brick houses in a row kind of thing. Some lived in wooden houses, but they kind of all lived together in almost like little slave villages. And then they cultivated cotton to be exported all over the country. And then the third section where Suzanne's property was the tenant farmers. And those were people who rented the land in order to farm it, because this was a 10,000 acre plantation. And then the other plantation was 7,000 acres and then another 5,000 acres. So it was a massive area. And it was like almost from coast to Georgia and then over to Louisiana.
Wow. Didn't you say that you saw some like bricks that were something could have been in?
Sometimes when I walk up that lane and I go off on the grassy part, there's stuff over there that looks like old shingles to me on the ground.
Right.
It could be.
It could be. I've never been over and tried to investigate it, but that's what it looks like when you just are walking.
Yeah.
Didn't you also say there's some graveyards near your property
They're
too?
behind us, yeah.
Are they marked graves or are these
I've never been. We tried to go. I thought you were with us that night.
No.
The graveyard is it's literally just a small sign off of Pisgah Church Road, and it's, I don't know if it's his graves or cemetery or something, and it almost looks like you're pulling in somebody's driveway, and we went down there and a dog came running at us, and we just turned around and left. So I've never been back there.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah, I would like to go back there and see what's going on in that cemetery.
Yeah. Well, it was all divided up.
I'll bring a drone down there. We'll fly over it and see what's going on.
That would be so cool. But the property was divided up later and parcels sold off. And the interesting part is that where the plantation house was, there is a descendant somehow of the Bradford family who still lives there, and he raises spaniels, which the family has done for like 200 years. And they raise them specifically for quail hunting, and they've retained a large area of, I don't know what it is, forest and everything else and grasslands that people can pay to rent the spaniels and go quail hunting.
Okay.
And they've got a lot of photos that go way back of like 1800s, late 1800, early photos of people going quail hunting on this property. And so the other thing was, and I should have looked up this name before I came on, but so the current Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth II, her parents, they used to go to the plantation, the horseshoe plantation, every spring for, I think it was for like 2 or 3 months. And they would spend their time quail hunting, and because they were good friends with the family, and they used it as like a vacation.
Right.
So they used to do that every year, and there's lots of photos of them like smoking cigars with the dogs, and so it's pretty interesting stuff.
I think there was a major house down there where Suzanne's house is located now. And the reason I say that is because the drive down there have some really beautiful old trees.
Yeah, we were talking about
which
that.
mark the drive down there. And then if you look on the right side of the property, now I'm talking about facing her front porch, looking back out.
Okay.
On the right side, there's some more trees that looks like at some point were planted as I don't know if that was a circle driveway that went out. Do you know what I'm talking about? If you go down to the end of your property and look up to the right, you'll see another set of trees, which nobody has really built a road through there, but it looks like it was designed for a road maybe out. So I was wondering if you just came down to a circle drive and went back out. But
Water Oak Plantation. I'm sorry, that's the other one. I was just looking to see if I had a photo of.
But those trees are really old.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
those were planted there, and they were not just.
Yeah, they're not random, and they're live oaks.
That's a tenant farmer house on the other plantation, but that's the size of house that could have easily been there.
Right.
Okay.
And it's very large.
That's pretty.
She's showing us a
was
2-story
beautiful.
white frame house that was in the area.
With a little picket fence in front,
Right.
and the older trees, and
Yeah.
I mean those trees are old.
Very
Well,
old.
they're very old, and somebody is. You could tell years and years ago they took wire and tried to keep them from splitting and put these braces in there, and those things have been in there so long that the tree has grown around them probably
wow.
maybe 100 years. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking those trees are hundreds of years old.
Somebody planted them. Yeah. So I guarantee you it was a tenant farmer.
That's not a native tree type for the driveway.
Right.
And it's very beautiful going down there. She's got the Spanish moss that hangs from the trees.
I saw some of the photos.
And I mean, it's beautiful going down there.
amazing.
So it was that somebody
It's a beautiful house and a beautiful property.
Thank you.
Right.
It really is.
It really is. And it'd be, like I said, if we could ever get the original house that was down in that area and where it was at. But she said it was added on, and like I said, I felt something in that back bathroom, which she says the bathroom's always been there, but that was the end of the house. So I don't know if there's something.
I felt like
their bathroom has got to be bigger than the original bathroom was. They didn't build bathrooms that big back in the 1800s, 1700s. So I'm thinking that might have been part of the bedroom also. And they expanded the bathroom there.
I don't know. You might be just picking up on a house that was not even this house.
No, that's true too.
I mean,
because that's my feeling, is that I don't think the people I saw were of this house.
Right.
I felt like they're older.
Right. And we have seen a lot of entities that stay on the property proper.
Yeah.
Instead of, just leaving when the house left. This is still their house is, they see it as their house
right
now, just like it was back in the 1800s or 1700s or whatever.
But I'm with you. I really do agree that there was a house there of some sort. And when I say tenant farmers, people think like poor tenant farmers, and these were not impoverished tenant farmers. These were pretty wealthy individuals that were just renting the land in order to even grow their own cotton to sell. And so they were profiting pretty well.
And I haven't ever felt any, how we can feel the bad vibes.
Yeah.
Especially in that one house we did over there.
Oh my God. In my mind, that house has now set the level of what I consider evil. And so I'm like comparing anything I feel to, okay, it's not that level.
But Suzanne, it's really funny because the people who live there do not want to get rid of them.
It's really strange.
They enjoy the haunting.
We offered several times to
the place that you think's
house.
Evil.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
If you listen to our podcast
about
it's what did we name
Where is
that
this
one?
The Susie Martin house.
Susie Martin house.
Where is it?
It's located out off of.
Is it Walkertown?
Yes, it's near Kernersville, Walkertown area.
All right, I'll listen to that one.
And she is, and then we at the Ann's house. Is that Ann? I'm thinking of the one in Asheville.
Yeah, Ann.
Ann's house. You need to listen to that one because she has that's the one I was telling you about, that she has. She doesn't want to get rid of hers either. She wants to live with them in peace, and but they rebel against change.
Yeah.
And hopefully Ann's mother's going to talk to us because Ann's mother has had more contact.
I've been talking to her daily.
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
So maybe we can get her on the phone and do a podcast.
Yeah,
with her
she's
shortly.
ready for it. She'd love to do it.
Hopefully we'll get into the new studio, our permanent studio here pretty soon. So, do you have anything else to add about that? Because we're getting into it pretty.
I feel like I've been to her house.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
I know.
I feel like I've been there because we've talked about it and I've seen photos. And yeah, I do want to try to contact this guy I kept seeing in your house and see if he's related, if he's throwing the boxes at you, or if there is a message about boxes.
Right.
Something.
Well, whatever about the box, we need to try to figure that out, and we'll try to get. I'd like to get Pooh involved in this if we can.
And I don't think we made the point. That hallway the closet where the boxes flew off into the floor in front of you, where I saw the guy standing. Since the house has been remodeled, would have been the end of the closet,
right?
Which is really weird.
Yeah.
And that was the room that I kept feeling something in. So
so whatever you felt is the very end of my closet that kind of connects to that room where you stay when you visit. Yeah, the guest bedroom.
So there's some. That's why we're kind of thinking.
And the guest bedroom now, it used to be the master, or it used to be just a bedroom, right?
No, it was like it had all those shelves. It had shelves. I think it was
maybe
an office.
Yeah,
study, something like that.
Yeah.
But we don't know what was before that.
No.
And the house dates back. This house is from 1974.
Right, but we
don't know before that.
Before that.
Yeah. Okay. And I am still looking into that. I'll let you know what I find.
All right. Suzanne, if anything else happens, we would love to get you back on the podcast via telephone.
Okay.
We have a really good via telephone connection. And we'll talk about that. Whenever we learn something else and get some other people involved, like I said, I'd like to get some more.
Yeah, I haven't heard from Pooh yet, but we've got to
maybe get Pooh involved
message out to her.
Okay.
And see what happens there. But we'll stay in contact. But we really enjoyed tonight. Thank you for talking to us and giving us your
thanks for a fun
side.
scavenger hunt with the house. This has been fun.
Yeah. It's been fun. That's right. All right. So until next time, this is the Mothman, Darrell.
This is Amanda.
And thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you.
And good night from Mothman Podcast. We hope you enjoyed tonight's episode.
And don't forget